Hey, there we go. We are live. What's up, wrestling fans? This is Two Bros Wrestling Show, and there are two bros this week. You know,
Two bros this week.
I think I made it clear my disdain for the Hall of Fame when I boycotted last week.
We had to do the show without Doug last week, but we missed your perspective on these Hall of Famers. Although I must say it was nice for me to be able to give my opinion without having it disagreed with by anyone.
And me ranting about AEW on a WWE Hall of Fame show.
I had your back. I talked about how much and deserving you thought the Great Khali was, so we're good.
I should really watch our shows when I'm not on them.
Oh, you might not want to do that. Thank you, folks. It's Easter, and happy Easter, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Two Bros Wrestling Show with both the bros. So it is not only a holiday, but it is, I guess you could say it is a sacred time of year for wrestling fans too, because it is WrestleMania week.
Indeed it is, which is crazy.
It is crazy that it's that time of year, but it's welcome. I'm happy that it's here, and that's what our main event topic is tonight. This is our WrestleMania preview show, so thank you guys for tuning in to that. Our preview shows do really well, but before we get to everything WrestleMania related, Doug, you know how we do.
Hold on, it's like I forgot. There we go. There we go.
It is time for the opening bell. And just a quick look at the news. And since we're talking Mania and Mania season, Doug, this is going to wear you out. But let's start with WWE and Mania by saying tomorrow night starts 9 straight nights of WWE programming. I can see the exhaustion on Doug's face.
It's not because I'm working all the time. It's just that's a lot of wrestling even for us.
It is a lot of wrestling, but it's important to note here as we start the news segment that today is the final day of the WWE Network. And I know we did a show on it a couple weeks, a special. If you haven't seen that, you definitely need to check it out before you make the switch. We tell you all the pros and cons, what you need to know, what you need to be aware of. But this 9 nights of programming that's getting ready to kick off tomorrow night, a lot of it is only on Peacock. So if you are watching us in the United States and you want to make sure that you see the Hall of Fame and WrestleMania and TakeOver, you're going to have to subscribe to Peacock. Earlier today, I know Doug and I, we talked before, like we were going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off. Doug, my wheels have fallen off. It was on this afternoon. I checked right before we went on air. I got a message saying that the WWE Network had moved to Peacock. And I know it'll happen at different times. I've been on services before. I was on PlayStation View, and some folks were headed a couple of days beyond what I did. So if you're at home thinking, hey, I still have it, it might last till Mania, don't count on it. It's probably ending soon. If it hasn't ended already, it's begun to end for many people. If you do have still time on your subscription for WWE Network, I got a message today informing me that they were going to prorate me whatever was left on my subscription. So take that money, put it in your pocket, go subscribe to Peacock. And don't forget, if you want to watch Mania, you have to do this.
So Vince must like you better because I haven't gotten that. I haven't gotten my email about that yet.
You may have been more the AEW fanboy, so they're keeping your money, apparently. Still on the topic of WWE and Mania Week. You gave me a good transition there, Doug. AEW, right? So with all that's going on this week in WWE world, I think one of the things I'm most looking forward to and was most surprised by is the guest on the Stone Cold Sessions podcasts, which they tend to do these around the time of large pay-per-view events. The last one I think was associated with Fastlane, which was with Randy Orton. Obviously, Stone Cold, a legend in the business himself. Who would have ever known, though, that he would be such a fantastic interviewer? He really is fantastic on the microphone, and he has a incredibly surprising guest next Sunday to go along with WrestleMania Sunday. Doug?
I'm repping his guest right now with the Inner Circle shirt here. So, and I was thinking about this because I read that Stone Cold text Vince, and Vince says, "Yeah, that's a great idea. Do it." And then Stone Cold says, Vince and I don't have like the best communication via text, so I text him again, and I'm like, "Are you sure this is cool?" He's like, "Yeah, have Jericho on the show. I think it's a great idea." And really, I mean, from a business perspective, it is a great idea because everybody is going to be watching this now to see what Jericho says or what he doesn't say or how it's edited. Is it going to be creatively edited to cut out, AEW promotions or anything nasty about the WWE? We'll see. But everybody's going to watch now just because of that.
I love that that Stone Cold thought to himself that it was apparently going to get shot down. So when it didn't get shot down, he had to ask a second time to make sure that he heard him right. You're not no joke. It is going to be something that everyone watches, no matter which fan. If you're more one side or the other, we're all fans of wrestling, and we love the way that promotions are intermingling. We just never thought we'd see an intermingling between one of AEW's top stars and one of WWE's legends on Peacock on the WWE network. The buzz it's caused, honestly, I'm as excited about this as I think I am anything that's happening all of Mania week. So, for AEW to get a little bit of that shine from WrestleMania week, to take some of that away and put it over into, their ledger, I think it's just a smart business by everybody involved. And it should be a great conversation because these two guys are both of them have a long history in this business. And both of them have a relationship with one another going back. Stone Cold does not shy away from the questions. Jericho does not shy away from, criticizing WWE in the past. So how close we get to true criticism and how much AEW talk we actually get. Stone Cold says he's going to ask about everything. He was asked if he was going to, bring up AEW, and it was like, yeah, of course, that's part of what we're doing this for. So that's definitely don't miss TV, and more reason that you got to go subscribe to Peacock, folks. We want to see this.
Absolutely. What else we got in the news, Kevin?
NXT, it is official. I know it's been rumored for a long, long time, but WWE announced a multi-year extension with the USA Network, but in a move to Tuesday nights, beginning April the 13th, so right after WrestleMania. That's why we end up with 9 straight nights of WWE programming when you go all the way out to the 13th. In a corresponding move, Impact was very quick to announce that they would be moving from Tuesday nights on Access TV to Thursday nights so they can run unopposed. So now you have AEW unopposed, Impact unopposed, and NXT unopposed, which in many ways is probably better for us wrestling fans trying to get in as much as we can or support all the different promotions. And now fans don't have to choose. Realistically, most fans probably choose. If you wanted to see both, you'd tape one, you'd watch one. I know that's what I did and what Doug's done. But it is, I think, a little bit easier. And if everybody's ratings go up, which they should, everyone's ratings go up, then that's also kind of a win-win-win. But
absolutely, everybody wins there.
Wouldn't you say, though, that there was some mystique to a Wednesday Night War that was kind of fun for a while it lasted, Doug?
Yeah. I mean, the demo god now has nothing to brag about. So
True. Hopefully a rising tide lifts all boats here and everyone benefits. Still in WWE land and talking WrestleMania week. I know last week, as we mentioned at the top of the show, unfortunately, Doug wasn't able to join us, but we did our Hall of Fame show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I wanted to add, though, into the news section for this week that since we had our show last week, there's been a couple of new announcements for additions made to the Hall of Fame. The biggest, of course, being RVD going into the Hall of Fame. And if you watched last week's show, which Doug didn't know we talked bad about him, so he didn't watch. But what we did is what we talked about each individual that was going in, whether or not we thought they deserved it, and what are some of our memories and matches we would recommend. Doug, I'm going to give you a chance since you didn't have it last week. RVD, Hall of Famer. No.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. RVD in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. Mr. Monday Night.
That's an easy one, isn't it?
It is a really easy one.
I mean, he kind of changed, he defined a certain era of wrestling, and the outlaw spirit of ECW was, Rob Van Dam was their Stone Cold. So, if you're wanting to see RVD at his Hall of Fame best, I would recommend any match that he had in ECW with Jerry Lynn, any of them. Any of the feud matches that he had in ECW with Sabu. And
yes, absolutely.
If you want to see RVD inspired on the WWE roster, go see when he was in the Hammerstein Ballroom under the ECW banner, but facing John Cena at the ECW pay-per-view. That still is perfection when you watch the way that hot crowd just was. I really thought there could have been a riot that night. It's just beautiful work, but well-deserved congratulations to RVD. Two other additions that were made that I think Doug would be supportive of is Captain Kirk is going into the Hall of Fame in the celebrity wing. Come on, dude. You're a tricky. You got to go Captain Kirk in the Hall of Fame.
I got nothing for this, man. I really don't. I heard about this earlier this week, and I don't get the Hall of Fame, the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame anyway. But okay,
Shatner has made numerous appearances with WWE throughout the years, and both on air, and he still does voiceovers a lot on some of the documentary stuff that they do. So I think there obviously is a relationship there. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. Don't necessarily get the celebrity wing, but as far as the celebrities that are in it go, I definitely find William Shatner to be one of the more palatable that I can get that. And I think that even if there was an audience, which there won't be because it's a pre-taped show, the Hall of Fame this year, but I think that the fans would actually be behind William Shatner, whereas they usually kind of crap all over the celebrity segments, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then,
as I say, to be clear, I have no problem with Shatner. It's just the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. Of course, I'm a Picard man myself instead of Kirk, but
there's always next year when the fans are back at the Hall of Fame. And then Titus O'Neil is being given the Warrior Award. And I know that in the past that award is, the intention behind it is good. If maybe the guy it's named after, that's debatable. Right. And it's also interesting that it's typically been folks that aren't necessarily involved in WWE sometimes. But Titus O'Neil, that man doesn't wrestle very much, but if you follow him at all on his social media accounts or what he does in real life, he is an ambassador for WWE. And if someone is really living the mission of charity work in WWE, it's him. So I think that's a good call myself. But moving away from WWE, a couple more news items before we get to WrestleMania coverage in our main event. But the IWGP Heavyweight and the IWGP Intercontinental titles have been officially unified. It was announced a couple months ago that this was going to happen. For the longest time now, the last two title holders, both those belts, when the title has changed, both belts have passed. So they've basically been one and the same championship for more than a year now. Ibushi is the current champion, the current title holder. Technically, the lineage of both those belts, though, are now retired, as the new championship is known as the IWGP World Championship, a new championship that shares the lineage of the two now retired titles. Kota Ibushi did have a bit of an interesting week, though, with this new change, in that they revealed the new belt, and it was pretty divisive, actually. There was a lot of controversy on just how ugly or not, depending on your point of view, this belt may be.
When any belt gets compared to like the Divas butterfly belt, it's bad news, man.
I knew you had a busy week, so I didn't know if you'd seen it. Have you seen it?
Thanks to like 5-minute YouTube wrestling shows, I've been able to at least stay in the loop over the past week, and that is that, or the Jeff Hardy, or was it the TNA title belt that he had his own like kind of funky belt? Was it when he was in TNA as a champion, or maybe it was I don't know, but it has that funky like Divas or Hardy.
I definitely got that butterfly belt from the way that there's almost wings on the side. There probably will be a course correction on that if the backlash continues. IWGP takes their wrestling seriously as a sport, so if they think people are making fun of the title, it's probably not long before they do a redesign. In other news and other promotions, Impact's Eric Young suffered an ACL tear at a recent taping. He's going to be out for 6 to 9 months. Since he was released last April by WWE, EY has had a lot of success. He's had a world championship title run and is the leader of one of wrestling's more interesting factions right now with Violent by Design. So get well soon, EY. That's a tough injury there. And then the last bit of news that I will mention is for Ring of Honor, who are going to soon be celebrating their 500th episode of Ring of Honor Wrestling on television. And they're doing so with a 3-hour block of programming that's going to air for free on ROH's Best on the Planet station. And that's going to happen Thursday, April 15th. And it's going to culminate. It's going to be 2 hours of the best matches in the history of ROH television. And then the third hour is going to be the premiere of the 500th episode. ROH Best on the Planet is a free 24/7 streaming channel on. You can find it on the live TV sections of either the Stir app or the Plex app, both of which are free and available across most platforms, unlike Peacock. But again, the 2-hour show is going to feature 10 of the greatest matches in ROH TV history. The 500th edition is going to highlight with several matches, but the main event is going to be, appropriately enough for ROH, celebrating brother versus brother, Mark versus Jay Briscoe. You talk about two guys that have been there since day one. It only makes sense to put those guys in the spotlight. I think that's kind of a cool way to celebrate 500 episodes.
That's very cool.
And with that, Doug, are you ready to start 9 nights of WWE programming?
Maybe. Let me hold on. My mouse is about half charged, so I had to just unplug it. Let me wait. Okay, it's working. All right, we're ready for the main event.
Doug, we don't have time to actually preview all 9 nights because it would be nice. There's a lot to digest, but just so folks know, we're going to run it down. Tomorrow night, the go-home edition of Raw. Mm-hmm. Tuesday night, exclusively on Peacock, the WWE Hall of Fame. Wednesday night is night 1 of NXT TakeOver, both on Peacock and on USA. If you watch it on Peacock, you don't get the commercials. There's the catch. Night 2 is exclusively on Peacock. Night 2 on Thursday of NXT TakeOver. Friday, they're having SmackDown as normal, except it's being referred to as WrestleMania SmackDown. I'll get to that again in a second. And then, of course, Saturday and Sunday, WrestleMania Night 1, WrestleMania Night 2. Then you roll immediately into Monday, follow up to WrestleMania Raw. And then Tuesday, the new night on the 13th of NXT television. 9 straight nights. Doug, you still with me? That's a lot to recap.
Man, I'm going to be watching replays for weeks. I'm going to need a week off of work just to catch up on WrestleMania week.
It is the most stuffed WrestleMania week I can remember, and we're getting ready to just go through only the WrestleMania matches because that is just way too much to preview for you guys in a concise format. But it should be for wrestling diehards. It's like wrestling Christmas. There is something really cool happening pretty much every night, and there are going to be good contests aplenty. Back to that SmackDown. So tonight we're going to be talking about WrestleMania's night 1 and 2. But really, SmackDown now, because of the way this is the second year now we've had WrestleMania as 2 nights. Now they do NXT as 2 nights. So SmackDown's sandwiched in the middle, which moves the Hall of Fame. So everything now is just like one large event. And they're using SmackDown as almost a pre-show, what would have been the pre-show in previous years. The Andre the Giant Battle Royal, for example, as well as a tag team title match with high-profile tag match, are taking place on SmackDown instead of at what would be a 4 or 5 o'clock start pre-show on those 5-6 hour WrestleMania days. So don't sleep on SmackDown this week because I have a feeling they're going to be adding more matches with WrestleMania implications or things that just aren't fitting on WrestleMania and put that in on SmackDown to try to end, quote unquote, the wrestling season the way they do. Currently, there's also rumor that night 1 of WrestleMania is going to feature a multi-team match of some sort to determine number 1 contenders to the women's championships, the tag team championships. And then night 2 of WrestleMania would be the actual match that team who won on night one would have against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. If that happens the way it's rumored, then we're going to have 7 matches on each night. Pay-per-view starts at 8. They have been starting at 7. WrestleMania is pre-show at 7 o'clock each night on Peacock, and then the main show starting at 8. So only a 1-hour pre-show and then an 8 o'clock start. With that, Doug, you want to start talking night 1, Saturday.
Where do we start on night 1?
Let's start with Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, this feud kind of started as soon as Seth came back from his paternity leave. No one embraced his, vision of SmackDown and his image. No one much missed him. Cesaro made some sport of Seth Rollins, and now this one's kind of centered around the fact that Cesaro loves spinning Seth Rollins around a lot.
I hate that it's devolved into like, I don't like you spinning me, because we have 2 great workers here that are going to be in a WrestleMania match, and the storyline is the one guy doesn't like getting spun.
I have to say I like that. And I get what you're saying, but there's something about it that reminds me like old school, like John Studd versus Andre the Giant or something. Like, all right, we're both big guys, and like, okay, who can slam who? I'm going to slam you before you. Like, they centered it almost around this one thing of like, you're never going to spin me again, and then 5 seconds later, Seth Rollins is going around in circles, which I just found hilarious. I think this has a chance to be on night 1 a show stealer. It's not a match on the line. Like you said, the stakes are pretty low. It's like one guy doesn't like getting spun around. The other guy likes to spin. But Cesaro has never had a significant singles opportunity at WrestleMania. This is the biggest match of his career for that reason. And I hope that it blows everybody out the water and sets the tone. And I think that yes, Seth Rollins, you're going to be spun around. But Cesaro, you're not going to win. I'm going Seth Rollins.
I have to agree. I would love to see Cesaro get a WrestleMania win, but it's not going to happen. He's going to have a great showing, and it'll be an excellent match. I think it definitely has the potential to be the match of the night, if not the match of the weekend. But, Cesaro, the professionals don't win in this one.
I hope we're wrong, to be honest, Doug. Yeah, I think with this, that the fact that the way they treat Cesaro a lot of times the last few years, I think the fact that he is in this at all against Seth Rollins on WrestleMania, that's his victory right there. So he's there to do the job. The next match, Doug, we got Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon in a steel cage match. So we wondered what it is that Shane McMahon is going to fall off of that's really high. Now we know. It's the steel cage. This one is based around the fact that Shane McMahon thinks that Braun Strowman is stupid.
I'm going to give Strowman the win here, and if I'm wrong, oh well. And I'm ready to move on. What do you think?
I don't know what advantage there would be in Shane McMahon beating Braun Strowman. I mean, I think at some point, I know that he hasn't been booked so great the last couple of years, but at some point they're going to realize that what they have in Braun is beyond saving if they keep putting him in pointless feuds, especially if he loses those feuds. You got a little weasel. You got a guy who's middle-aged, non-wrestler against a man who is as large as a house and is supposed to be a beast. If you have him lose, you're just really not going to be able to rehab that character, which would be a shame because there's more in Braun Strowman than what he's getting right now. I'm not even the biggest Braun Strowman fan, but he deserves better than this.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I'm with you. Braun wins unless all is, wrong in the world. Speaking of which, the next match, we have The Miz taking on Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny had a pretty great showing. He's a pretty athletic dude. I'm going to go with Bad Bunny just because.
We had a show earlier this year. It's still in the archives, folks. You should check it out. Where we talked about the history of celebrities in wrestling and in general how bad an idea it's been and how it's just not worked out. And honestly, I know Doug was talking before about like we don't get the whole celebrity wing, but that's where you get into the celebrity wing. You do a few of these things, and next thing you know, you're in the Hall of Fame because you associated with WWE.
Right.
I get why they do it. I'm kind of down on this whole like, do we really need to take WrestleMania room for Bad Bunny versus The Miz? I read an article though this week that kind of made me change my tone a little bit, and it was basically talking about the fact that WWE's ratings are we are the target audience. And by we, I mean Doug, you and I. Like, well, not even quite you and I. I think their average age is like a male in their 50s is their average viewer, which is beyond the, that target demo, which AEW skews younger and it hits it, but they just barely hit it. Like their like average age is still men in their late 40s if you average it out. So what that means is that younger people, one, either are not watching wrestling to the same extent that we all did, or two, and also just as likely is that young people these days are way less likely to watch TV in general.
True. This is very true.
So those two things combined is why you have Logan Paul and Bad Bunny, and when I think about it and read it from that point of view, is like, do you want that kid who was like our age when we're like Mr. T's wrestling at WrestleMania? Like, if you want somebody tuning in that might be a fan of Bad Bunny and they might end up watching the show and they might end up being a wrestling fan as a result, I'm now less offended by this. I hope it's kept short. Celebrities usually win these things. Miz is kind of a comedy character at this point, so he won't lose anything by being humiliated by Bad Bunny. Everyone goes home happy, and hopefully it's kept mercifully short.
Yeah, yeah. Although, if we can put on a match like Pat McAfee put on her last year, let's see Bad Bunny. I want to see Bad Bunny versus McAfee. That's what I want to see in a celebrity match.
Hey, when we're doing our review show next week, we might be eating our words. Like you said, Bad Bunny has shown some things that makes you think that he's more athletic than one might think. And he's not there for a payday. The dude is a Grammy winner and one of the biggest music stars in the world right now. Was on SNL a few weeks ago. I mean, he's got a lot going on. He's a legit wrestling fan. So, he's not there slumming in his mind. He's probably there at fantasy camp and having the time of his life. So
True.
If he brings more eyes to it, I'm all for Bugs Bunny as Ron, the Truth Killings, seems to think that Bad Bunny is.
Oh, my.
On to other matches that kind of came out of nowhere and, like the last two, really have not been all that serious. But you have the New Day, the tag team champions of Raw, defending against AJ Styles and making his in-ring debut, Omos. And let's sink this in for a second, folks. The phenomenal AJ Styles, one of the best in the business, one of the best to ever do it, is wrestling at WrestleMania in a tag team match with Omos against the New Day in a comedy type distraction.
It's a WrestleMania season. Is anybody trying?
That's the crime in this one. AJ Styles being wasted in a match that when he could have had something more meaningful going on.
New Day would lose absolutely nothing if they drop a belt here. Give AJ a tag team win and a tag team championship run. Maybe put this Omos guy over. I don't know. I'm going to say AJ and Omos just for kicks and giggles, man. What do you think?
I think that we're thus far in lockstep because New Day's been champion more times than I know that they in their pre-match at whatever time, like I've lost track. I can't even think now how many times it is. They are always the tag team champions. They will be tag team champions again. I agree that this one goes to the challengers because why would you have a guy who's legitimately like one of the biggest men I have ever seen in the wrestling business, and you have his not just WrestleMania debut, have his forever debut on WrestleMania and not give him the belt. Yeah. So I think that, I'm curious to see what he has because he's huge, but I've heard that he was really, really green, which is why for a while he was the bodyguard at Raw Underground. And the giant ninja and the whole like
that is why you put him in the ring with AJ Styles and New Day.
True.
And there you
True.
go.
Three good guys walk around him.
Yeah, you get the guy over like that then.
And they probably will let what he does be only those things he can do in brief.
Yeah.
Now we're getting to the two matches that I'm really looking forward to on night one, in addition to the Cesaro match. Honestly, Cesaro, Seth Rollins has me intrigued too. These feel like Mania matches to me. Sasha Banks, the SmackDown Women's Champion, is defending her belt against Bianca Belair. Belair, of course, being your Royal Rumble winner, who eventually decided that she wanted to take on the boss to be the best, to beat the best. And they've been slapping each other around. They've turned the heat up on this one a little bit just because the talent involved. I think that this is going to be fantastic, Doug, and a highlight of night one.
I agree too. This is the only other match that I see that could topple Cesaro Rollins on night one anyway. Man, I always say I don't bet against the boss, but I think it's Bianca's time. I think this is a great way to put her over, give her a killer WrestleMania moment, and strap a rocket to her.
We are not going to disagree on this one either. I think that she kind of waited in the wings for a while when you wondered, why did you bring her up if you're not going to use her? And then once they switched her to SmackDown and started using her, threw her in the Rumble, it's been main event bound for her ever since. Sasha has been around the championship for a while and has proved the naysayers wrong. They actually gave her a run with the belt instead of have her lose it, which has been the MO in the past. Is she wins, but she can't retain. She's retained enough now that she would lose nothing, and Belair has everything to gain. I think you can mint a superstar on WrestleMania in front of a crowd. We're going with the EST on this one as well, which would bring us then to the main event of night one, Doug.
Oh man, Bobby and Drew.
Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. Lashley being your champion, McIntyre having won that belt without fans last year. So, Doug, that is the question to me. In this instance, do they give Drew the moment that he was deprived of last year, that celebration in front of an audience? Or is it just too soon to take it off Lashley?
See,
that's the question.
And here's the thing, because I think we could both argue both of those things. It's too soon to take it off Lashley, but Drew was completely robbed, in a age of a global pandemic, of that WrestleMania win in front of a live audience. We're not going to have a full capacity stadium, but we're going to have a stadium with people in it this year.
20-some thousand.
What?
20-some thousand.
Yeah, so I'm saying that Drew gets his WrestleMania moment. I'm calling this for Drew more because that's what I want to see than the actual booking that will probably go down. But I'm going to call this for Drew.
I for much of the day when I was going through these picks, I had it as Lashley. But then I started to think about the placement of the matches. And what I tried to think the game of like, okay, over 2 nights, maybe you can get away with some things you couldn't if it's one night. WrestleMania has traditionally been that moment where they want to send the fans home happy. It's the end of their season before then. So a lot of times you'll find more villains being overcome by the heroes. But when you have multiple world championships and multiple nights, they can mix and match a little more, which in some ways makes it kind of cool. It makes it harder to predict, and we all like to be surprised. But there's just something about it to me that I'm thinking that when I have been torn on these, I'm going for the face because I think there's going to be an innate desire on WWE's part to not just send the fans home happy because it's WrestleMania, but it's on the year of hell for everyone. No Mania last year. And the fact that you have a Mania in front of fans, I think we're going to see a lot of faces winning, a lot of world championships finally realized, a lot of crying in the ring from people who are making it for the first time to that, upper echelon. I think they're really going to try to over-deliver on making all those people in that arena or that stadium rather happy that they're amongst wrestling fans and celebrating WrestleMania. So I got to say that Drew McIntyre walks away, just like you said, and gets the moment he didn't get last year.
I'm certainly hoping that's the way this goes. Is that,
Which brings us to
night two?
Sorry. Night two.
Oh,
that's
my.
only night one. So more WrestleMania goodness coming at you night two. We'll start with Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Zayn has been pushing these conspiracy theories of WWE against him, and Owens has tried to be the voice of reason in these encounters. Sammy's been going around with a documentary crew trying to film the wrongs that have been done, and somehow through all this, of course, the only way to really settle it is to bring in Logan Paul, of course, because wrestling.
Wrestling, right?
Sammy brought him in, but then on SmackDown this past week, Logan Paul seemed a little bit on the fence as to which side he was really going to be on. So I figure that Logan Paul is going to factor into this somehow, which is kind of unfortunate, only because you and I and hardcore fans that go back to Ring of Honor years and years ago know these men have wrestled each other all over the world. They're true life best friends. Their chemistry cannot be matched. Kevin Steen, El Generico, go check out some of their matches, and you will see exactly what we mean here. This could be This could be Seth Cesaro for night two, a match with low stakes.
Absolutely.
But the talent, if they're allowed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Steen or Owens did not get his chance to jump off that pirate ship like he wanted to do last year. So I'm looking for some crazy, crazy spots in the stadium. This will be great. Logan Paul will get involved, but whatever, man. Wrestling. I'm calling this for Sammy just because Sammy.
I think we have our first disagreement.
All right.
This is the first one. I'm going to go the other way. I think that I think that Sammy is just going to have more to complain about, which is fantastic when Sammy complains about things. So Aaron Paul's going to turn on him, and it's going to be Aaron Paul's fault because nothing is ever Sammy's fault.
Wait a minute, Aaron Paul is Jesse from Breaking Bad, right? This is Logan Paul.
Logan Paul, yes. Do not let me. Thank you for correcting me on that. I did not want to be confused of people thinking that a talented actor was actually going to be there.
No, Aaron Paul playing Jesse Pinkman.
That would be some WrestleMania entertainment. No, unfortunately, this is Logan Paul, YouTube sensation. Yes, apparently he's the biggest thing on YouTube since the Two Bros Wrestling Show.
We'd love to have you on, Logan. Drop by.
That's true. We shouldn't be.
Leave us a comment.
That's right. We shouldn't be on YouTube slamming a YouTube star, shouldn't we? Next up, Kentucky Fried Fiend versus Randy Orton.
Man, the Fiend was awesome, and this is one of those where I really don't care, but here's what I think is going to happen. I think, the Fiend will take out Randy. Randy might be out for a while. We're going to have some brilliant idea where we decide to give Alexa a mask and start covering her face up, which I think is ridiculous. and this will be over hopefully in short order, and it won't be like that. What was it, a Wyatt family death match, something or another, where they had the maggots projected on the ring and stuff? Was that at WrestleMania? Haven't we seen this already at WrestleMania, like Orton and Wyatt?
Oh yes, and they were in a house.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the house. I was thinking it was and maybe it wasn't at WrestleMania, but they had they were projecting maggots on the mat.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know. I remember that match. I don't remember what it was. This I like slow burns. This one has been painfully slow, and maybe it seems slower when you don't care so much. But after a while, it's like, okay, I'm happy that I think that this will be the culmination of the feud. I mean, there's not very many more places you can go. Each man has now killed the other. Like on live television, they've both committed murder. So how can you top that?
The Fiend looked cool, man. The Fiend looked cool, and I get it. Kudos for continuity. That now he's crispy because Randy Orton burned him alive. But He looked cool. And now we've got our crispy fiend.
I've had no indication in anything I've read and or seen that this match is going to be a cinematic contest of any sort, even though there's parts of the theatrics that make you think that it could be.
Right.
I imagine, though, they will not take the money from 20 some thousand people for the first time in a year and then make them watch a screen. I would hope they wouldn't do that. So I hope this one actually does take place in the ring, but I'm going Fiend only because booking wise, how else can this end? Randy Orton has killed the man, so you can't do worse than actually committing murder against someone. He's got to at least get some comeuppance if he's going to stick around as a character.
Exactly. I don't know. The Fiend has needed rehab for a while, but not like this.
No.
I mean, I think the last year's cinematic match with Cena was great, but Fiend is great. What are they doing? Anyway, yeah, I'm calling for the Fiend too.
Well, back in the world of reality, well, let's get to our next match where the supernatural stuff will be set aside as we have Riddle defending the United States Championship against Sheamus. This is sort of Sheamus's consolation prize, I suppose, for the valiant work he really did in keeping Drew McIntyre busy and relevant while the whole Miz Bobby Lashley, shuck and jive, like switch the title belt around so we can, stretch this out to Mania thing went on. Sheamus did fantastic in that, so I'm happy to see this. These guys will hit each other hard.
That's what I was going to say, man. This has potential to be a sleeper. Nobody's going to see this one coming, but these dudes will put on a hard-hitting match that is going to look brutal. We're going to be cringing hit after hit. Sheamus and that pale, pasty white skin, just like me, is going to be just red and with welts, and it will look great. But at the end of the day, I'm calling this for Bro. How could it go any other way? I'm calling this one for Riddle.
I can see Sheamus as a United States champion at this point,
Absolutely.
but apparently Vince McMahon is pretty high on Riddle, which is, I hear it as I say it. But I mean, hey man, how can you not be, bro? I mean, Riddle is so likable, a great character, and hasn't had that belt long enough. I'm giving this one to Riddle too. Yeah. Which brings us to our next match, which is the what we have going on the other show as far as the mid-range title, and that is the Intercontinental Championship, where you have your champion Big E defending against Apollo Crews. And Doug, I am glad that you are with me on this week's show because I know you are an expert on the Nigerian drum fight. So if you could explain to our audience at home what a Nigerian drum fight is.
I'm stuck.
You are. I have apparently perplexed Doug with talk of the Nigerian drum fight. He is confounded by what this means. Oh, that's hilarious. You'll get unstuck in a second, Doug. Earlier this happened. We can still hear Doug, and we can watch his perplexed face as we talk about a Nigerian drum fight, because this has not really been defined as to exactly what a Nigerian drum fight is.
I don't know what's going on.
Exactly, Doug. No one does.
You can hear me, okay?
I can hear you. It's now like we're broadcasting radio here. Doug is calling in from the field, and we put a picture up of Doug because he's live in the field, and there's no video capabilities there.
Oh, I love this. This is the greatest. We should do every show like this with this image of me.
I think so. I think people will respond to this version of Doug because you look very serious and your frozenness there.
So wait a minute. Okay, so what is a Nigerian drum fight? Wait, is this a real thing? What's happening?
It is a real thing. This happened on SmackDown, Doug. I know you've had a busy week, but Cruz obviously in full heel mode now. Embracing his Nigerian heritage, putting on that accent that he apparently found in next to Kofi's old locker that had the Jamaican accent in it. But he had challenged him to a Nigerian drum fight, and Big E, quickly like, yeah, whatever, you want. But it never was defined what a Nigerian drum fight even is.
Oh man, is this like a Punjabi prison match? Didn't we?
Oh goodness, let's hope not. Let us hope not.
So I don't know what a Nigerian drum fight is. It sounds like it could kind of be some sort of epic, Wakandan thing though. So that might be cool.
Let's hope for cool and not cheesy. And I know you probably have these same fears I do with WWE, especially when you hear things like this. Like, let's be culturally appropriate, folks. And,
At this point, I'm hoping for like a Warrior Falls cinematic match where we have Big E and Apollo Crews fighting, for the throne of Wakanda or the mantle of Black Panther.
I think with this one, Doug, I am actually going. I know this has been a pretty one-sided feud up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Apollo Crews. I think they go all
Me
in on the
too.
heel character, and he has come out on you too.
Absolutely, because Cruz has been a premier top tier athlete throughout his WWE run. He's just not like Cesaro and so many others. I mean, my goodness, this WWE roster is so stacked with incredible talent. And I'm not sure the world has really seen Cruz, really go. And I think it's great to have him. I'm going with Cruz. I think it's his time.
Yep, absolutely. Been a good soldier and taken so many losses in this. Big E, I think, might be moving on to bigger things even. I think that he could possibly be a world title contender. And so I think now would be the right time to get his win back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And actually, the right time is a good way to transition to our next contest as we get towards the higher end of the card on night 2. We have Asuka defending the Raw Women's Championship against Rhea Ripley, who was at WrestleMania last year, even as an NXT superstar. It initially looked with this one like we were headed towards Asuka versus Charlotte, but with all that Charlotte had going on in her life, including, COVID diagnosis and everything else, she got switched out of here, and Rhea Ripley kind of got switched in. So I don't know that Rhea Ripley has been around on Raw long enough yet, in my mind, that they will give this win to her.
Man, I think it's Rhea's time too. I think we bring Rhea up. She could have had an awesome WrestleMania moment last year, just like Drew. I don't think she was going to win last year, but she could have had that awesome WrestleMania moment with Charlotte. This year, she's going to be in that stadium in front of at least what you say, 20,000 people.
21, 22, yeah.
So we've at least got that, and I think it's time for the Empress of Tomorrow, who I think is wasted in what she does on Raw. But I think it's time for her to pass something along now, and I'm calling this for Rhea. Again,
okay.
It's what I want to see, but
it's the second one we are disagreeing on. So only 2 matches have the 2 bros disagreed on yet, which brings us to the final match of WrestleMania. What we expect to be the main event and final match of WrestleMania. Let's see, Doug, if we agree or disagree on this one, because the dynamics in this one have certainly shifted through the last couple of months of WrestleMania buildup. You have the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, defending the Universal Championship against Edge, and then in a last-minute bit of switcheroo here, we got Daniel Bryan that shoehorned his way into this match. Again, good call, David Poole, who called it on our show when we were like, nah, we don't see it happening. And now, gosh, Doug, I don't know that I don't see Daniel Bryan winning this thing.
Man, I want to see the head of the table stay the head of the table for quite some time. I'm really loving this Roman Reigns heel character. It would be great to bring Edge back, but Edge, even though he's back, he's not full time, or it certainly doesn't appear he's going to be full time anytime soon. And I'm not sure you'd want to use him full time unless he's planning on a return like a Daniel Bryan type schedule. But I think even Bryan's going to rotate out and spend less time on the road and more time with family. Edge, I think, will be a Legends contract kind of guy, a here and there special, a more of a Brock Lesnar special attraction. And I think the head of the table there's still a lot of steam in that character, and keeping him the head of the table since he is a heel, we'll see some shenanigans with the Usos, but I think he'll retain.
I just think that it being the last match
Right.
of 2 nights, that they were going to send folks home happy. And we haven't actually, I mean, I love the character. You love the character. I think most people love the Tribal Chief character. It's going to be interesting to see how actual fans, for the first time having the opportunity to see the new Roman Reigns and not the Roman Reigns that used to boo to get out of the building because we just don't like you. Now, if it's going to be boos of respect because we love to hate you, which I hope that it is. I think, though, that the element of the triple threat allows the Tribal Chief to remain undefeated and lose his title. And that could be what fuels him angrily forward. I don't think Daniel Bryan will hold the belt long, but I do think that because this is taking place in front of fans and because Edge is now, I mean, pretty much not even a tweener. I mean, he's full-on heel with his actions. You got 2 heels and a beloved, historically beloved face who, again, don't think he'll hold it long, but I can just see them sending them home with the fireworks and Roman Reigns having a legit, I didn't lose it. And you can spin a few feuds out of this one. This is the most interesting, though, match, I think, of the weekend as far as what booking they're going to do, because there's a lot of different paths they can take with this one. And I'm just not sure which one they were going to decide on.
All right, so we're going to agree to disagree with this one.
We have, of the 14 announced matches, only 3 disagreements, but folks, that is WrestleMania's night 1 and 2, exclusively on Peacock next week, and we will be with you after night 2 to talk about the entire weekend. So it could be late. You'll want to stay up with us, but Doug, unless you have anything more to say about WrestleMania.
Look at that face. Do you think I have anything more to say?
Doug, if you're done, just sit there and stare at me menacingly. Yep, okay, you're done.
I'm working on my heel face, apparently. I don't even know if I can take us to a big finish. Let me see if this works. Did that work?
Hey, there it is.
Why am I stuck? But I can do that thing.
You can put words on the screen, but you can't change your expression. Well, actually, it's probably a good way to start. Let's start, Doug, with the botch of the week.
I'm pretty sure this was the botch of the week first.
This is your personal botch of the week.
This is my botch of the week right here. Got a lot going on, moving some stuff, moving homes, doing a whole lot right now. And apparently the Wi-Fi net that is set up in the house, the mesh doesn't cover like it did a few days ago because I've had to move some stuff around. So this is my botch of the week right here.
There was so much to choose from, honestly, this week for botch of the week. This week's Raw was bad. Like, even by overly long 3-hour Raw standards, it was bad. It was bad, worrisomely so, being the Raw this close to WrestleMania. Part of the problem was Vince's attempts at comedy being stuffed into a single episode where you have Miz and Morrison's very unfunny Bad Bunny disc video. You have the phenomenal AJ Styles reduced to playing charades on television. I mean, then you could just get into the bad of you're breaking up the Hurt Business now. Like, the Hurt Business is fantastic. It's one of the best things you got going.
I don't get that, man.
But with all this that's worthy of botch of the week, I am going to go funny and say that there's nothing that Vince McMahon could have scripted that was going to beat the unintentional comedy of a true botch from everyone's favorite stoner, Matt Riddle. I'm sorry, I forgot what I was saying as he gets on his scooter and just leaves Asuka sitting there looking so confused. The way that Asuka normally leaves other people, but this being legit, I don't know where to go from here. My scene partner just left me on live TV by admitting, I don't know, I forgot.
And you know, I've heard McMahon loved that.
I don't know that any other character would not have got backstage and immediately got reamed and cussed by Vince McMahon, but the original Bro character is probably the one character that could get away with, hey man, he is in his own world. Who knows what he's thinking? And it still worked somehow.
Absolutely.
But was definitely funnier than any of the crap they were scripting him to say or any of the crap they actually put on air that night. I watched that over and over again, and I laughed every single time.
Not as much as I've laughed during the show when I look up to the screen and see that face.
I don't know, Doug. You do not look like you're in a good mood at all. Like there's nothing funny.
Work has been rough. So.
Did you have a chance to have a performer of the week, Doug?
Somebody from AEW, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
You know, the only thing I did catch was Dynamite, and I don't remember anything about Dynamite because I've been so tired, other than the Pinnacle Inner Circle, like beatdown and Inner Circle taking back their dressing room, which I really, really love that. I love the idea of the Pinnacle. I love how in this scope of less than 5 minutes, Inner Circle becomes straight up baby faces, you know, just with the snap of a finger. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes now. And the ending of that, where they put Jericho puts MJF through the clear screen Pepsi machine fridge, whatever thing it is. Yeah, I thought all that was really great. But well, hold on. Now I'm going to take that back. QT Marshall. I'm giving it to QT actually, because I love QT's heel turn, because that was a nice slow burn. You know, takes out Arn, and then that did happen this week, right? It's been a quarter.
Oh yeah. Okay. You hit Arn Anderson, you're automatically heel. I mean, everybody loves Arn Anderson.
It's like old school WWE. You know, you do an interview with JR. You take out JR. That's your full on heel turn right there.
I'm also going. I know we've had a pretty WWE centric show, obviously being WrestleMania week, but I'm going out of WWE for my final two picks here in our big finish. But performer of the week, I'm going with James Storm. This week on Impact Wrestling, the good old cowboy had his 1,000th match under the Impact banner. You don't hear about loyalty very often from either side, the wrestler or management anymore in professional wrestling. People's fortunes change and they move around, or they're on their way up and they feel like they, need to have a certain trajectory in a company they need to end up with. But other than a few matches at NXT when he wasn't under contract, he was just wrestling one-offs, and then some time in the NWA. James Storm has been Impact loyal since day one, and even had an NXT offer and turned it down to stay with Impact. So for them to recognize James Storm by having his 1,000th match and making a big deal about it, and appropriately enough against another Impact TNA original and Eric Young, sadly the match that Eric tore his ACL with, which we mentioned at the top of the show. But still, it was a very good match, a very good week, and just nice story to see the Cowboy get 1,000 matches at Impact Wrestling and to be recognized as such.
You know, I haven't seen the match, but didn't we get an AMW? AMW reunion out of that too?
Yes, absolutely. Well, they made a big deal about it. They brought back, a lot of folks, but yes, Chris Harris was back, not looking like the Chris Harris you likely remember, but if you remember James Storm's most famous tag team as being Beer Money, you got to go way back to the beginning of Impact Wrestling with Kentucky's own Chris Harris and AMW, like Doug said. But man, it was just cool. James Storm is a cool character, had opportunities and stayed loyal to one company, and it was good to see that company repay that loyalty by recognizing the man for his accomplishments. So that was a neat moment, I thought, this week. And I will leave, Doug, unless you have anything pressing here. You want to talk match of the week? You look like you're trying to tell me something. No? Okay. This is the greatest thing in the history of the Two Bros Wrestling Show, folks. You're witnessing
Can we
right
make
here.
a profile picture?
Oh yeah. Now that you mentioned it, yes, this is definitely going to be.
Oh, Oh, this is so going to get memed, isn't it?
If I have anything to do with it. What match of the week did you have from Dynamite, Doug? Because I know your match of the week came from Dynamite.
It wasn't a match, but I really, really enjoyed the Pinnacle and Inner Circle like brawl. I really, really enjoyed that. So I'm going to give it to that just because you had so much happen there in the turning of the tides because you had the babyface flip. It didn't really do any favors to the newly established Pinnacle when you have such an amazing roster there within the Pinnacle. You've got FTR, you've got MJF. Wardlow is a huge dude, but Sean Spears is relevant, and you got Tully.
Yeah.
You really didn't do any favors to them, but I think it quickly reestablished and just kind of flipped things for the Inner Circle. And I'm curious to see where, because I love a good stable feud, and we've definitely got one now. So I'm going to give it to those folks.
My match of the week, I know we've spent a lot of time, obviously being WrestleMania season and a preview of WrestleMania, talking about the big guns in professional wrestling, the big organizations. So I'm going to put match of the week in a match I saw in a smaller promotion. But Contra Units Jacob Fatu successfully defended his MLW World Championship against the Heavyweight Hustle, Calvin Tankman, in a really good match this week on MLW Fusion. I do not understand how Jacob Fatu has not been picked up by Tony Khan or Triple H just yet, especially considering, we're talking cousin of the Usos, Rikishi's nephew. And honestly, another reason I wanted to pick this match, Doug, is that I think you and I kind of are the same in that we tend to prefer like technical matches or high flying matches. And I don't always give big men style of wrestling its due. But when it's good, it can be really good. And these two showed how you could wrestle a big man style that didn't bore people, that still is high flying. I mean, Jacob Fatu is a legit 300 pounds, and his finishing maneuver is, propelling himself from the second rope up to the top rope to do a backwards moonsault onto his opponent at 300 pounds. These guys are not your standard big men, and they showed how big men contests can actually be made exciting without having to pretend you're a cruiserweight. So I think that's a match, especially as we talk about the big tent of WrestleMania and the thousands and thousands of people that'll be there in person and the millions watching at home. Go onto YouTube and to the MLW's channel and give some of those smaller promotions a little bit of love this week if you get a chance and tune into that match.
Man, I've seen Fatu work before, and Fatu is great. And I agree with you. I don't know why Tony Khan or Triple H has not gone knocking on his door yet. And I haven't seen the other guy, but my God, Tankman is such a wrestling name. That is great.
Heavyweight Hustle, MLW, for what they've done, being a small promotion. When you look at the guys that have come out of there, from Shane Strickland to you got the Von Erich kids and Brian Pillman and. You have the Hart Dynasty. Davey Boy was there for a while. Filthy Tom Lawler. They have some really talented guys that've been in and out of there. They do a good job with booking too, and it looks really, first rate and professional. So yeah, check them out sometime. But in all the free time you have this week, when you have 9 straight nights of WWE programming.
And I'm also thinking every show I can't make from now on, we use this image and just throw it up.
I've always made excuses for you. I didn't know I could just put a photo of you up there and pretend that you're live. But
just throw to me on occasion, and since I don't have no comment, and we'll just make it out to me being a AEW snob, and then we'll just get back to the show.
That is exactly how we'll handle it from now on. Hey, it's still an improvement to not having you here last week. So glad that you could join us, Doug. So yes, reporting live from Baghdad on the phone, we have Doug Hager.
I gotta say, this is the most fun I've had in the week.
Well, it is fun, folks. It should be fun. We all have a lot going on. It is busy. It is probably way too much of a good thing, but let's go enjoy WrestleMania week, see some good wrestling, and enjoy it for what it is. And, a chance to kind of escape from reality. Tune back in next Sunday night late as we're going to be live after the second night of WrestleMania to give you the rundown, on everything that's going on. In the meantime, folks.
Oh, I've been Doug. It's stuck in. I can't even talk anymore.
That there is Doug, and I'm Kevin. Folks, we really do appreciate your support. Good Mania week. See you next Sunday.
Not everybody.